Um, we just concluded our study on the how to read the Bible, actually how to study the Bible. That's on our YouTube channel if you missed that. And so we try to go somewhat in a fluid approach. And then last week we had our standalone on why small groups are important. We talked about influence and different things like that. And today we're starting a new series in Ecclesiastes. And so if you said, Jonathan, if you're on a desert island, what 2 books of the Bible would you bring with you? If you're on the 66 books, which ones would you bring with you? And Ecclesiastes would be one of those books. The other books would be Romans. Not saying they're better than the rest of the Bible, but as I read them, it hits me harder. So this, by far, is my favorite Old Testament book. By far. I read this constantly. I'll sometimes read this book several times a year, because for most part, I'm kind of a type A driven kind of guy. Right? And I don't know if y'all can identify with this, but I'm goal-oriented, right? So in order for me to feel good about myself and feel productive, I set goals, and therefore, as I accomplish those goals, then I go, yay, me, right? So I feel productive. And so the worst thing about that is that if you're not doing anything, you feel like, oh, I'm not going anywhere in life. And then you start to feel kind of bad and go through different directions. So that's part of, there's positive and negatives, right? About personalities. That's my personality. That's one reason why I love Ecclesiastes, is it continues to hone me in. So as I was preparing for this, and Ben and I have been talking about doing Ecclesiastes for the last few months, and here we are now. Last week I had the opportunity to go to Miami. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Miami. It's like this big, beautiful city. It's awesome. And you know, I always heard that, listen, when you go there, it really helps out if you speak Spanish. And you understand that, right? But you don't realize that, man, like literally everybody speaks a second language. And I felt so cool that I felt like I'm part of a completely different culture. And it's only 3 or 4 hours away. Actually, 4 or 5, right? And I was like, this is so cool. I'm eating all these different foods. And I have these people, and they're there, and after every single meal, we do this little Cuban coffee, which I never had before, but it's delicious. It's like black coffee with sugar. I forget what it's called. I'll mispronounce it if I do say it. But I thought somebody said it. But it's awesome, right? And so I'm hanging out. I'm eating these big meals, gaining 25 pounds as I'm eating them, drinking this coffee. I'm like, I can do this for a living. I would love to come back down here and work. And so while I'm having a little mini vacation and enjoying myself and hanging out in a nice hotel room that companies pay for, and companies pay for my food, which are saying I want to work for GE, great company. We're not hiring yet, but we do. So I'm enjoying life. My family is running through the ringer. They got people passing out. They're not literally passing out, but they're sick, right? They're getting colds going from one person to the other. And so Renee, she's still recovering from that. And right now she's trying to sterilize the house and to make sure that nobody's going to get sick anymore. And so they're going through the ringer. I'm here like, yay, on vacation by myself, hanging out, no worries. So we had these 2 polar different worlds, right? And then I come home, we had a retirement party for my former boss after 31 years with the company. He retired, which is awesome. That's where we all, at least I want to be, right? I would love to be retired. And I have other passions in life to do, but unfortunately I had this thing called work and the house and bills that you got to pay for, right? So, we're celebrating his career and telling him what impact he made on my life, and how I'm a better husband and father because of him. So not only was he a great boss, he impacted my life in a positive way, which is kind of cool. That you have in a secular environment, you have somebody who can impact you in a way. And then I was having a conversation with my coworkers, and he started telling me that his marriage is failing. So here I am, I've been in a celebratory moment, and I'm like, hey, Miami, little Cuban coffees and all this stuff, and I know my wife's struggling with the family so bad, but she can't do anything about it. So, right, and then now this guy's telling me this bone-crushing story of how his marriage is failing and his wife are going through divorce. Oh, it's horrible, right? And then he starts to tell me how, he's finding himself, now he's having this addiction to porn and different things like that. So now he's telling me these deepest, darkest fears, and he's revealing who he is while we're at a retirement party. It's like he had this weight on him that was so heavy that all he needed was somebody to have a spiritual conversation with. Remember last week we talked about having this spiritual conversations. That it's just not here at this building. That we have spiritual conversations with everybody. Where as we go through life, we're having this opportunity for spiritual conversations. We talked about how, obviously, listen, besides prayer, what can we do, right? So this prayer is nice, oh, I'll pray for you, but oftentimes that's not really tangible. We can't feel that, so sometimes it's better to have somebody call you and say, hey, I'll pray for you, but are you really? Well, when they call you and say, hey, I'm following up with you, how you doing? Now you know that they're on your mind and they're literally praying for you, right? So besides prayer, what kind of do it? We talked about how with that particular addiction usually is due to stress and boredom. So he needs to work those out in his life. And as he identifies what's causing the stress and boredom and different things like that, it helps alleviate things and knowing God calls us to be holy, but also knowing that no matter what he's doing and how bad he feels about himself, there's a God who loves him and loves him. And knew that whatever he's going through right now, that God is not ashamed or cast him off. That yes, he's disappointed when we make mistakes and we don't glorify him the way he's created us to be. But it doesn't take away his love. And he knew it was coming. And he's ready for him to do something incredible with his life. There's hope. And then I was talking to my boss on the way home and found out that another one of my coworkers, his 24-year-old son committed suicide. But, that's even more bone-crushing. Right? And then now that my boss has his employee, his son, committed suicide. Well, my boss's son, around February, March, 24 years old, committed suicide. So now my boss is going through the year first, the first year without his son. The first year to where his birthdays, he's not there. The first time they used to ride bikes on Labor Day weekend, he's not going to be there for that. The first time they have Christmas, the first time they have Thanksgiving. The year first is so hard because you have the support for the first couple of weeks. But as the months go on, and you're still missing that loved one, they're not there anymore. Oh, that's so crushing. And then I was reminded that not only has my coworker Tony lost his son, then my boss has lost his son, and about 7 months earlier, I had another coworker who lost his son. All three due to suicide. Young men without hope. And it begins to drive you in your mind like, God, what is going on within our generation? And we know that recently a 30-year-old pastor committed suicide in the church just this week. And I don't know if it's happening more regularly or if I'm becoming more attuned to it, so I'm sensitive to it. Have you ever, if you had a chance to buy a car, right? So as soon as you buy that car, you're driving down a road and all of a sudden, everybody and their brother has the exact same car you do. You ever done that? Right? Before, you never noticed. Right? You're driving along, like that car, like that car. But once you purchase something, now everybody has it. Right? Or you purchase an outfit, and all of a sudden you walk into a guy and you have the exact same outfit on. And you think you're special, but you realize you're not. Right? So I begin to, I don't know if it's because I have that car moment where because I'm now sensitive to suicide, now I'm picking up on it a lot more. Or is it because it's happening at a greater rate? I don't know. But I do know within my life, I've had multiple people I know have committed suicide. And within the last 13 months, 3 young men have tapped out. That's enough. So what do we do with it? And even then, we talk about the whole spiritual moment, right? Well, if you just trust God and just believe in God. Well, if you're in a moment of depression, and I don't know for some of you if you battle anxiety and depression, right? And this might be very touchy, and you might be crinkling up your toes, God might be stepping on you. If you are, I'm really trying not to. But if you haven't battled anxiety and depression, to try to explain that to somebody who's never even gone through what you've gone through, that's unbelievably difficult, right? Until it hits you personally. And then you start to realize and understand that. I used to be one of those, I was more calloused in my heart. And it's because I believe that I've been depressed. Right? And we've all been depressed. But depression, where this thing where it just overcomes you. And your body's physically aching because of what's going on mentally within you. Until you see that happen to a loved one, then the quick answers of our, well, just pray. Just think positive thoughts. If you would just down your head, just think positive thoughts. And that person, they want to be happy, and they want to not be depressed, right? Because who in the right mind says, you know what I want to do? I want to wake up today and have the misery of the world upon me and go through physical aches and pain, right? And so one of the things that I was reading and praying to find, well, what do you do when people are going through depression? This is several years ago. And it's like God hit me upside the head and said, because I said, my heart was kind of toward it. And he said, when you get mad at people when they have cancer, and they have physical symptoms and signs, he said, I can't go to work today because the chemotherapy has just really hurt my immune system. God called them lazy. You're so lazy. Can't you just suck it up and get over it? And have cancer growing inside their body. Do I do that to them? No. I'm more sympathetic because they have something that we can physically see. But with mental illness, it seems that sometimes we're very unsympathetic. I know I was. And to this day, I still battle that inside me of realizing, am I being calloused? Because yes, is there points where sometimes we do need to toughen up a little bit? There's a little bit of truth to that, right? It kind of hurts, but there's a little bit of truth to that. Sometimes, even though you feel a certain way, you need to still overcome and persevere. You have to push through it, right? But in that same moment of that tension, you also have to be very sensitive to sometimes people right now, they can't and they need help. And sometimes that help is medicinal. Which in a church like, well, you're taking, is this a mental condition? Well, yeah, we're growing so much smarter today. So I want to let you know, if for some reason you are on, say, anti-anxiety medication or depression medication, this is not a sin against God. This is something that's going on with you, and you're here to get help. But your relationship with God should trump your problems. And you might take medication for the rest of your life. You might. Doesn't mean you're a fucker. It means you got something going on. And you have three phases in your life. You have the physical, the psychological, and the spiritual. And when one of those phases is out of balance, guess what happens to you? You're off kilter. Usually we neglect the spiritual. And in a church, we focus so long on that we've overtaken the physical and the psychological. Right? So you have to have all three phases in your life balanced out. Be an effective person. Because when you're depressed, it doesn't just affect your mental conditions, it affects you physically as well, right? And then it affects you emotionally, because now you go to work and now people are looking at you like you're a weak person. So now you feel, that's great, right? It's not, here's what we do, I love this, it's always funny. So we have a person who's going through anxiety and depression. They don't go to work. And then the people at work scorn them for not coming to work. So what does that make an anxiety and depressed person naturally want to do? Not want to go to work. So the very thing that we want them to do, we then scorn them when they show up. Well, sure didn't miss you today. I'm going through some stuff, right? So instead of encouraging and dealing and all that stuff, right? So we have this culture to where we're handling all these things wrong, and then there's so much to it that's going on. And depression and anxiety are real, right? And it's something that we want to control, but oftentimes we feel like we can't control. And so what is the answer to that? Where does, if we had the three phases of life, our physical, our spiritual, and our psychological, obviously, if you're not taking care of your body, then that's going to hurt you, anxiety and depression-wise, right? If you're physically out of shape and you do something that's physically telling, then you're going to have physical problems, obviously. Psychologically, if you have an unhealthy thought life, and you're constantly telling yourself you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're never meant to be this way, that nobody likes you. Well, obviously, if you're telling yourself that, then guess what's going to happen? Right? So psychologically and spiritually, if you don't have a relationship with God, then you can bet the rest of the other stuff is going to be way out of kilter. Because our relationship with God should be the foundation for the other two. Right? So what do you do when your fellow Christians are depressed? Let's not talk about the world yet. Let's just talk about our family. So what do we do when you have somebody who's going through depression and anxiety? Because the quick answer is, well, just, I'll pray for you, and you got to get outside. Are you eating good? I'm eating good. I'm a vegetarian now. Okay. Are you drinking too much caffeine? No, I'm not drinking caffeine. Okay, well, you just got to get out of the house. Well, I do, but I don't feel any better. Oh, yeah, you just got to pray. You think I'm not praying? Do you think it's because my sin, that my lack of faith, I'm going through depression? Well, you just got, right? So there's no quick and easy answer. So what do you do when the person is doing everything they can to fight depression? What do you do with that as a guy? In fact, why do we even have depression? Have you thought about that? Like, why is it even there? Like, if you're a follower of Jesus, if God is so big that he literally created a universe by speaking into existence, why does he allow his children to go through depression? Isn't that really the ultimate question? Because don't we want to know that, hey, God, why did you allow this to happen? Like when my boss, Steve, lost his son, one of the most amazing things that he said to me that was so profound, that to this day, it gives me shivers to think about. He said, I don't blame God for taking my son's life, I blame my son. God didn't pick up the gun. My son. See, we live in a world that's full of tension, that where God has given us free will. So what happens when our free will or other people's free will interferes with our lives and different things like that, and it causes this state of anxiety and depression? And then when you're in a depressed state, have you ever been in a depressed state? I used to do this a lot as a teenager, right? And I don't know why teenage years are so full of depression. Maybe yours weren't. Maybe you'll have unicorns and rainbows and like Fruit Loops and all this stuff. Like, yay, love life. But I was one of those little depressed kids and nobody loves me. Never good enough. And probably because I have awkward hair and I can't talk well. You want to be cool, right? But then you end up not really being that cool, and that kind of frustrates you. Like, you want to be athletic, and you're trying really hard, but it's just, you never really make the cut. So it's one of those things. And, so you go through a little depression and anxiety. And I remember when I was going through this little batch, I didn't listen to happy music. Have you ever done that, right? Like, so when you're depressed, what do? You listen to depressing music. It's like you just want to wallow in it, right? Isn't that kind of funny? The very thing that we know we should do, like, okay, listen, if you find yourself getting depressed, obviously listen to depressing music that's going to enhance the mood, so don't listen to it. Go out, hang out with some friends. Relax. Sooner or later, you'll get over it. You'll be okay. But we don't do that, do we? We kind of wallow. Right? And now we have a whole little state of, well, of course you're depressed. You're saying you're depressed, right? Your identity is now your depression. So why would you be depressed? Right? So we have all these different dynamics to these different things in life. And for the next few weeks, we're going to be entering into a depressed person's mindset. Because I don't know about you, but when you're depressed, it's kind of hard to be happy, happy, joy, joy. Right? If you were in Sticky Folks 20 years ago. It's hard. Because you want to be happy. You want to be positive. But what happens in life is you feel that there's just no hope. And that life has a certain kind of meaningless to it. And then as you examine things, you realize, wow, there really kind of is some meaningless going on. But sometimes the beautiful thing about life is when you're depressed, is that you begin to identify what is making you depressed, and now you begin to root out that problem. Because you know one of the biggest things about depression and sadness, one reason why I believe that God has allowed us to have it, is you know what one of the greatest indicators are of not being well is when you feel sick, right? There's a symptom, I forget what it's called, it's some long, smart name, but people who can't feel pain, right? And we think, that'd be awesome. It'd be awesome not to feel pain, right? I play football forever. But if you broke something and your arm's just hanging, right? Obviously it's an indicator you probably need to stop, right? But if you can't feel pain, then you're actually at worst at hurting yourself permanently. And the reason why pain is an indicator that something's broken, something's wrong, and you take care of it. I believe one reason why God allows us to go through depression instead of stopping it is because he's letting us know that something's broken, something's wrong. And he's trying to heal it. And what we do is we don't allow God to do the healing. We look for everything else to heal us. And sometimes we need help. But oftentimes, God is working something in our lives to do a miracle. And we're too stubborn. bottle. Because you know the other thing that's sad about depression? And this, put your toes in your shoes a little bit, okay? I might step on them. I'm trying to be careful. But here's the thing that frustrates me about depression a little bit. When you're depressed, you know what you do? It's me, 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 me. I'm depressed. Nobody loves me. My life is terrible. I'm in pain. This is going on in my life. My life is horrible. And so it's like you say, oh, I'm sorry. You know what we'll do? We'll stop the entire world. Let's sit around and we'll get all billion people to find out how can we make you happy. You know, find out what we can do to serve you and make you happy. Is that what you want? That we want the world to stop and make us happy? Because we're depressed, that's really the kind of emotion that we get into. And so really when we're depressed, we're in our most selfish state. And that's the reason why depressed people tend to commit suicide, because they're so selfish that they don't think that anybody will miss them, or worse, they don't care who will miss them. Because they believe life is better off without them. Because their thoughts are so depraved. That's the reason why suicide is the most selfish thing you could ever do. Because obviously people don't want to miss you and love you. But when you're in that mind, you're being so self-absorbed in your own sorrow that you don't see that clearly until it's too late. That's the reason why it's so hard. And it should break our hearts. Because for a brief moment in time, this person felt unloved. They felt there's no hope. They felt that there's no meaning to life. It's a lie that Satan tells us. It's a lie that goes on in our heads that there's no purpose in life. And so we're going to delve into this deep, dark book of Ecclesiastes. That where you had King Solomon, and he's telling people these last words, and he's oriented. That's why in Ecclesiastes says these are the words, these are things that he spoke to his kingdom on a continual basis. And here we have Solomon, and he's getting at the age of his life to where he's looking back at it with regret, with sorrow, with sadness. And he's specifically writing this letter or talking to these people. He's talking specifically to young men. Because as an older person who's gone through the troubles in a stage of life, you have all these regrets. The thing you want to do is you want to pass on to your future generations. Don't do this. Don't do this. Focus on this and do this. And we're going to be studying on, if you were a king, what would you want to do to affect future generations, and what would you write? But as you read Ecclesiastes, remember that this is written primarily to young men. Just like Proverbs was written primarily to young men. And if you're a woman, this is not because that he's leaving you out or God's leaving you out. Remember what we said about the Bible, that the Bible was written by 40 different authors in a patriarchal time where typically men were the teachers, men were the educators, men were different things, and women's role in that patriarchal world were typically to run the house and have kids. I'm saying this right, that's the culture in which it is written. Okay? So now you have somebody who's living in that society, so obviously that's going to come out. Because when you look at the Bible, there's not dictated, there's principles, right? We talked about that. If you missed that, go back and listen to it. Principles over dictates. And even Paul says that God says this, I say this. So we see that his personality, that these are written by human authors with their personality coming out into these books, okay? So we're going to talk about some things in Ecclesiastes, but remember this statement, that as we're reading Ecclesiastes, this is written by a human author, and you see his personality coming out of it. It's very important. Okay? Principles, not dictates. But we're going to talk about this subject of depression and anxiety. We're going to lean into Ecclesiastes as Solomon tries to teach us. What is the meaning to life? When life seems meaningless, can you find anything? I can't wait to study with you. It's going to be awesome. One of the things I want to give you a little bit of hope is that I don't know where you're at right now, and obviously there's people who are going through anxiety and depression right now, and you're like, man, I want a hopeful message, and you really just told me that life is meaningless, and we want to study Ecclesiastes, which is about your life is meaningless. He says it many times. your life as meaningless, it's better if you don't even born at all. Welcome to Ecclesiastes, right? So it's not that uplifting, but it is my favorite book. You'll find out the reason why is because it tells you you're not the point. You're not that important. The reason why Ecclesiastes is important, it tells us that your only job here in life is to have a relationship with God and enjoy fellowship with others. That's it. When you think that your identity is being fulfilled and how great you are at your job, your career, you're missing the point because it's meaningless. It doesn't really matter. Your point is to have a relationship with God. In 4 to 6 weeks' time, if we all come through the deepest and despair, and we come to the point to realize, it really doesn't matter what kind of career I have. It really doesn't matter who my kids are, all this other stuff. The only thing that matters is me having a relationship with God and me enjoying the fellowship of others. That's it. Everything else doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter about my car, how much income I have, or any of that, because that's all meaningless. It's a vapor. It's a wind. Amen. Solomon tells us, your life is purposeful. But when you feel deep and down, when you feel that there's no hope, remember what David said in this psalm. He said in Psalm 56:8, you keep track of all my sorrows. You've collected all my tears in your bottle. You've recorded each one in your book. So that moment when you feel down, when you feel there's no hope, when you feel that God has totally forgotten about you, that nobody feels like you're unloved and unpassionate, and you have no meaning in your life, remember that the God who loves you, He collects every single one of your tears. They are not misplaced. They are not forgotten. And one day, you will get there. And one day, you'll feel and see the reasons why God allowed you to go through. But right now, it might seem meaningless, but there is hope that He loves you. And not one point of your misery is being overlooked. And one day it will get better. But maybe the reason why you're going through what you're going through is God is trying to heal something deep, deep inside you. Let's bow our hands. I want to ask the musicians to come up here one more time. And as we close, we go through this, I want you to remember, your life is full of hope and love. That we might feel that sometimes it's not that important. But there's so much that God loves about you. He loves you so much that He's willing to do the ultimate thing of making sure you can have a relationship with you for eternity. And as we sing this last song, I want you to concentrate on the words and concentrate on the hope and realize that yes, we're going through a depressing subject, but there is hope and God loves you. He has not forgotten about you. He has not left your side. He is a conquering king, and you will get through this. You will conquer, and there is no reason why you should not be hopeful. There's no reason why you should not feel the hope in life, because He will redeem and fix.
Seek your face, come and make your throne upon our praise. every